welcome to another episode of Jim's Allotment Garden. Okay, so just a quick update on the runner beans. As you can see, I've put them in, and as you can see, they're just inside the pole. So you've got the pole obviously go around the edge, and then the bean plants are just inside each of the poles, and they'll wrap themselves round. And they always go in a, as you look at the top, they always go in an anti-clock direction. So as you can see, that one there's starting to twist its way around the pole. Now, what I've also done is put some grass and sort of wood chip on the inside. The reason I put the wood chip is to hold the grass down, the grass cuttings down. The other thing that the grass cuttings do is they hold the moisture in the ground. Obviously, as it breaks down, it fertilises the ground, which is high in nitrogen, which is what beans like. But it also generates heat as it breaks down. Now, that will keep the ground warm for the next couple of weeks whilst we're sort of just coming to the end of May. And as the ground's warm, that'll encourage the plants to grow that much more. So that's the runner beans in. Obviously the French beans are a slightly different story because we've had a slight difficulty with germinating those. They're going to go on the end there. But that's the runner beans in. There's a few missing at the back there. There's two missing at the back there, which is basically they're still in the greenhouse. They're not quite big enough to put out yet. But I'll put those in the next couple of weeks as soon as they get to about a foot tall. But as you can see, these are already starting to wrap themselves around the bean poles. What you might need to do if you have a windy day is they may get blown off the sticks. What you might need to do is when you come back up is just wrap them back around the canes. As soon as you get them started, as soon as they sort of get to kind of like that level there where you're almost 2 foot up the cane, then they're unlikely to come off because they'll just wrap themselves around and then get to the top. And that's all you need to do with beans, apart from obviously picking them and eating them. When we get to that stage, I'll obviously explain again, but what you do want to do is as soon as the plant gets to the top of the cane, just take the runner out the top, so the little end part there, take that out, and that'll encourage the plant to throw more side shoots and also shoots from the bottom as well, and you'll get a much thicker plant, and obviously with a thicker plant you'll get much more beans. But that's the runner beans for you, and as I say, I'll give you an update as we go along through the year. Okay, one success story are the courgettes. Now, I put 2 seeds in each of the trays. As you can see, both plants have actually germinated. So what I'm going to do now is sort of split these up. So what I'm going to do is just get another couple of pots with a bit of compost in the bottom. Now, you don't want to let these get too big before you split them because the roots will basically fill. You know, they're already at the bottom of the pot, as you can see. So I'm just going to, I haven't watered these today, so the compost is reasonably dry. And what I'm going to do is just very gently with my hands kind of like that, is just tease them apart. Be as gentle as you possibly can, because obviously you don't want to damage the roots. That's the smaller one, so it's got a smaller root ball. So all I'm going to do is basically just drop that into a bit more compost, like that, and then basically fill up the gaps. Then that will grow away in there as a single plant. Now this one, because you know the majority of it is, what I'm going to do is just drop that back into the pot like that, and then with a bit more compost I'm just going to fill in the hole, and that's basically disturb the roots the least amount as possible. Like that. And so those two can then grow on. I mean, that's pretty much ready to go out really. The only reason I'm not putting them out at the moment is because the the weather's not quite as warm as it has been, and we've had a couple of frosts this week. So what I'm going to do is just wait another week or so till you know, the weather's, you know, more guaranteed, so we're not going to have any frost or anything like that. Again, all I'm doing is just basically filling the gaps in, then the roots will sort of grow into there. But I'm planting them at the same level. That's important. The one thing that you need to be careful of with gourds is that they can rot off at the bottom of the stalk there. So if you plant them too deep, then that bit there gets wet. What can happen is they can rot off. So what you want to do is, when you actually plant them in the ground, you want to plant them on like a slight incline. So typically what you want to do is you want water to stay around the plant. So the best thing to do is sort of, if you imagine, like sort of plant the plant on top of like a little hill, so the water runs away from directly under the plant, and then about 6 inches away from the plant you want to build like a little moat around it. So when you water it, the water will go around that moat and water the plant, but it doesn't sit, you know, you don't want the plant sitting in like a bowl shape in the ground, because if the water sits around the base of the stalk, it will almost certainly rot, and you know, it'll basically rot off and then obviously die. With any gourds, you most certainly want to get the ground as fertile as possible. These are very fast growing plants, and the you know, most certainly things like pumpkins and that, they're very greedy. So what you want to do is you know, get as much sort of organic matter as you can, you know, manure or compost, whatever, into the ground. I'm just teasing these apart again, trying to damage the roots the least amount as possible. Then bob that in the pot, and then I'm doing this just so I can show you some compost on the side of the plant. But as I say, I'm planting them at the same level as they were before, like that. Just firm that round. Make sure that the plant isn't any deeper than it was in the first place, like that. And then just do this one here. So when you prepare the ground, what you want to do is dig the ground just before you put them in. Put loads of chicken manure, wood chip, anything like that, you know, well rotted wood chip in there, and then you want to get the ground as fertile as possible. So, you know, put any compost or anything like that as you can in there. You want the ground to be moist, because they love the water, but they also like lots of nutrient as well. What you can do is use comfort tea. You know, there's no reason why you can't sort of water them with that, or you know, any other compost that you know, any sort of fertilisers that you've got will always make them grow better. I'm just doing the last two now. So all I'm doing is basically putting my thumb either side of the plant, and then just gently pulling them apart like that, trying to damage the roots the least amount as possible, like that, and then drop that in the pot. It is actually easier if you just sort of put the pot, I don't know if you can see this, but just put the pot in a bag like that, and then what you can do is just throw the compost on top like that and just thumb it in either side, and basically you're not spilling compost everywhere, like that. So that's that one done. And then finally this one. So now I only actually wanted 4 of these, I've actually got 8, so what I'll do is I'll probably plant 4 of them and give the other 4 away to somebody who's in need of a courgette plant. But you can never grow if you've got chickens, you can never grow too many courgettes, because chickens love courgette. So if you've got too many courgettes, you can always let them grow a bit bigger so they become more like a marrow. And then just cut them in half and put them in the chicken run, and the chickens absolutely love eating courgettes. So most of my sort of courgettes that I get later on in the season end up in the chicken run, because the chickens absolutely love them. Right, so I'll put them there now. They're all separated, so they've all got their own separate pot. I can put them back in the greenhouse now, and then let them grow on. As soon as the leaves kind of get a bit bigger, so you know, most certainly in the next sort of week or two, these will be going out into the open ground as soon as I've got the ground prepared for them to go in. So that's courgettes for you. Okay, quick update on the strawberries. We have already picked a couple. Obviously these plants went in this year. Now a lot of people do say don't crop tomatoes, you know, the first year you put the plants in. But as I'm feeding these and watering them every night, I don't see why I can't take the strawberries off. But as you can see, there are plenty of strawberries still coming. What I have done is I've weeded them through this week, and you know, sort of got all the weed out. And then what I've done is I've put some wood chip down on the ground, and that's going to do three things for me. The first thing is slugs don't like wood chip at all, obviously, because they're a gastropod and they crawl along on the stomach on a sort of slimy trail. The wood chip's quite dry, and that'll basically get wrapped up in the wood chip, and that basically they don't like it, so it discourages slugs and snails and stuff. Secondly, it'll act as a mulch and keep the weeds down on the strawberries. And then thirdly, what it will do is it'll stop evaporation from the surface of the water, so it'll keep the water in the ground. If the water's in the ground, obviously it's there for the plants. Now, because this is a raised border, as you can see, it's about 2 foot off the ground. It is potentially prone to drying out, so I do water this every night from the water butt. I put sort of 2 or 3 watering cans on here just whilst the plants are getting established, but you know, it can get a little bit dry, so by putting the sawdust on the top, or the wood chippings on the top, should I say, what that's going to do is you know, keep the moisture in the ground, and as the wind blows over, it'll stop this sort of evaporation of water off the surface of the ground. So that's the strawberries for you. Obviously we've got the other strawberry patch down here, which yesterday has been weeded out, and that's all ready to go. So that's been watered and everything. Now, as you can see there, they're all coming on as well. So there's plenty of strawberries coming all the way along, but I'll show you those in a couple of weeks when the strawberries start to develop. Okay, so I've managed to get some sweet peas. Now I've got 2 different varieties here. These are early Monmouth mix. They're from Thompson & Morgan, and also from Sutton Seeds I've managed to get these sweet peas, which are just this climber variety, Copani. So I'm really late putting these in, so the Copani ones can still be sown in May, but these ones, obviously, these should have been in really in January, February time. So all I'm going to do, very easy, what I always do is use these trays for sweet peas, and what I do is typically sow them about sort of 2 centimetres or half an inch, well, sort of 1 centimetre really, 2 in each cell. Now they won't be in here long. As soon as they get to kind of 6 inches high, I'll basically put them out into the ground. But you want 1 or 2 peas in each one, like that. And I always get the climbing variety. There's various varieties of sweet peas you can get. You can get the climbing ones, or the ones that are sort of more bush-like. So that's 1 packet gone. You don't get many seeds in the packet. I think it's 25 seeds in each one of these packets. So this is the same variety again. And with these are going to be the, you know, sort of by far the majority of the sweet peas that I put in this year. The other variety is try and get the peas so they're sort of up 2 corners, if you like, so they're not touching each other, like that. Now I normally save seeds from the year before, but I did save some last year, but for some reason they've vanished. I don't know what I've done with them. I've put them up safe somewhere, so I'll probably find them next week when I've got these growing, but still. So I've got 2 seeds in each one. I've got a couple of seeds spare here, so what I'm going to do is just, I'll put 1 more in there, like that. Now all I'm going to do now is just put a little bit more compost, just sprinkle over. As I say, they need to be about ½ an inch deep. The one thing I've found with sweet peas and beans, all of the legume sort of type plants, is don't worry if you're a few weeks later than you should be. They will soon pick up. You won't get the optimum crop, obviously, but these will soon grow. So all I need to do now is just put a quick label in them, water them, and then they're the first lot of sweet peas. So that's the early Monmouth mix. And then for these other ones, which are kind of a dark purple colour, from Sutton, I think you get even less seeds in here. I think there's only 20 seeds in there. So what I'm going to do is obviously put 1 in each. So there are the seeds, as you can see. I'm going to be putting one seed in each cell right in the middle. Like that. Again, these are going to be sort of planted about 10 centimetres or half an inch deep. Just 20 seeds. And then again, I'm just going to be sprinkling over some compost to go over the top, like that. And then just firm them down with your fingers like that. And then stick a label in there, and then water these. These will soon grow. So I'll put these two in the larger greenhouse. Give them a good soaking, because obviously on legumes, sort of peas or beans or anything like that, the seed, the shells are quite hard, so you need to soften that to get them starting to go. So you need a good bit of water on them to start with. And then I'll show you these in a couple of weeks' time when they've started to grow. Now these will be growing outside at the end of the tunnel. So what I've got is some mesh that they grow up every year, and I'll be, if you haven't got mesh or anything like that, you can grow these up a pole. You can just wrap them around a pole from the bottom. But the one thing that you do need to do with sweet peas is keep them well watered. So get plenty of carbon matter in the ground. The more fertile the ground, the better, because you know all legumes, sort of peas, beans, sweet peas, and things like that, they're all very sort of greedy, fast-growing plants. So you need to make sure that the ground is really fertile and holds loads of moisture. If you do that, you basically you're 90% of the way there. You just got to leave them to grow then. So that's sweet peas for you. As I say, I'll show you these in a couple of weeks' time when they're ready to go. Okay, quick update on the French beans. As you can see, there's quite a few more that have come now. So we've got some here. There's plenty of weed in there, but you know there are more that have come. These are some more seeds that are set. As you can see, they're all coming. They're just sort of starting to poke through the ground there. So they're all coming. So I believe the problem that I had with germination of the seed was down to the cold snap that we had. You know, we had a few days of really cold weather, and I think that's sort of prevented them from germinating, or sort of they started to germinate and then they got damaged by the cold. But I seemingly have got lots of plants coming now. So that's the original batch, and then if we look in the other greenhouse, this is the second batch that I put in. As you can see, these are all coming on really well. So these first two here, so there's 33 in each of the packs, so there's 66 plants there. And as I say, I put 2 or 3 seeds in each one. As you can see, they all seemingly are coming up. Now don't worry if you've got 2 or 3 plants in each pot. You know, they'll still grow quite nicely together. What I will do is when I put these in the ground, they'll be about when they get to about a foot high. That's the best time to put them in the ground, and the best time to put them in the ground is at the end of May, when you know, the chances of any frosts have gone, because if the beans get damaged by frost, they never really recover from that. But what I will do is when I put them in the ground is put the plant in the ground, and then along with the plant I'll put a couple of beans in the ground as well. Then what you get is like a succession of plants. So these will grow, and then sort of these will be about a month ahead of the other seeds that are put in the ground. They'll grow, and then you get a much longer season of beans coming. But as I say, they're all sort of coming. You can just see some here starting to burst through the surface of the ground. Just as an experiment, what I did, because I was worried about the seed that I'd kept, I actually put some in a tray as well here. So what I did is I put about 30 seeds in the tray, and as you can see, they're also germinating as well. So I'm going to have more than enough bean plants. But as you can see, that it can't be the seed, so it must have been the cold snapping weather that caused the problem. Anyway, that's a quick update on the string beans, and I'll do a quick video of me putting them in as and when they're ready to go, which will be probably in about 2 weeks' time. Okay, so it's time to put the second batch of broccoli in. Now the first broccoli plants, they haven't actually gone in the ground yet, but just so you can see what they look like, they're about to go in the ground. So that's what the broccoli plants look like that I planted around a month ago. So I just need to weed the ground and then firm the ground down by walking all over it to make it nice and firm, and then plant these probably about half an inch or so deeper than they are in the pot here. and then they'll grow away quite nicely. So that's the first batch, but obviously I want to get a succession, and in total this year I plan to do 3 different batches of broccoli. So they'll all go in the same ground. So as soon as these have generated the florets, they'll get to about sort of 2 foot high. They'll generate the florets and then cut the florets off, and then basically the chickens will end up with the rest of the plant. And then what I'll do is I'll plant what I'm planting now in the same location as these, which will be these, and then there'll be a 3rd batch that will come in later in the year. But as it's one season, I'll grow all of them in one place, and then next year I'll move the tunnel to a different location, because you want to try and rotate brassicas as much as you can. But obviously I don't want to move the tunnel halfway through the year, because I've got other crops as well. So if Bernard can stop digging my soil up, I'll be able to put the seed in. Right, so, go to 8 minutes. Right, so, if you haven't got a small dog digging your compost out, you're alright. So basically all I've done is I've put about an inch and a half of compost in there. And then with my little piece of wood, all I'm doing is just firming down the compost like that. Like that, so the compost is nice and firm. Now the seeds are like small black balls. Hang on, I'll just show you what they look like. These seeds are from Thomas & Morgan. This is basically Green Magic F1. I typically grow F1 varieties, then they all come together. But let's try this. So this is what the seed look like. Okay, so they're like small sort of brown black spheres. And what I'm going to do is try and space these out as much as I possibly can do on the surface. Obviously you can take a bit more time than me. I'm trying to get the seed about sort of in a 2-inch sort of lattice going down the seed tray. You don't need to be overly fussy about this. I've dropped a few more seeds than I wanted to there. Try and space them out as best you can, because it's more important that because pretty much all of these will germinate. But what you'll find is, you know, when you come to prick them out, they tend to be a little bit more difficult to prick out if they're really close together. And what you want is the plants to grow separately. So you can let's just get that one there. Right. So as soon as you've done that, they're about as spread out as I can get them. Like that. Now all I want to do now is just put a really small amount of compost on the top, like that. Hang on, mate. On the top. So you've covered them with about, I don't know, 5mm of soil, no more than that. And then as soon as you've got them covered like that, all you need to do is then firm it down again. Brassicas like the compost to be firm, but what you can do is just put it down with your, just push it down with your hand if you haven't got a piece of wood like me, and then put a nameplate in there, because obviously all brassicas look the same as until they actually start to develop into the adult plant. So if you look at a cabbage plant, so this is a that's a broccoli plant, and then this one here. This one here is actually a kale plant, as you can see. They look pretty much the same, there's not a lot of difference between them. I can get one roughly the same size. See that one, for example. As you can see, that's a kale plant and that's a broccoli plant. There's basically nothing between them. So always make sure you label your brassicas up, and then you can tell which ones are which. What I'm going to do now is just water that with tap water. And then until they've germinated, then I'll move over onto the barrel. Water them with tepid water, don't water them with cold water, because you don't want to shock the seed. But I'll just water them with a bit of warm water, leave them in the greenhouse, and then they should be coming up in the next week or so. Okay, so things are moving really quick in the greenhouse, so I'll just show you what's going on. So these are the beans, which I've shown you in other clips. So they're the French beans. Then we've got at the back here, we've got some calabrese. As you can see, they're about ready to go in the ground. At the front here, I've got a couple of strawberry plants that I've pulled out, ready for next year. And on this side here, I've got a few runner beans which are just about ready to go out. They'll be ready in the next week or so. And then at the back here, we've got some kale plants. which again need to go out in the next week or so. Then we've got the tomato plants here. Those are the money maker plants. Then we've bought some cucumber plants. So there's 4 at the front here, and then there's 2 at the back there. Then we've got the leeks, which are almost ready to go out there. Some cayenne pepper plants at the back. The red onions are not very successful, there's only a few come through. Then we've got some pepper plants. I've got some chili pepper collection that I bought for £5. Then I've got some Gardener's Delight tomato plants there, which really need pricking out. Then we've got some pink asters there, and some lobelia, which will be going into the garden. So that's the first greenhouse, which is moving quite quickly. And then in the other greenhouse, there's lots going on in here as well. So we've got the beans, which I've already explained, and then we've got that's cabbage plants there. I've already given half of them away to friends and stuff, but they'll be going in today. Then we've got the second lot of sunflowers there, the smaller, sort of about 1 metre high, multicoloured sunflowers, which got put in last week. As you can see, they've just about come through now. Small plants, but there's quite a few of them come through. That's the first batch of sunflower plants, which are definitely ready to go out now. So they're about 2 foot or so high. So they're the giant sunflower plants. Some more tomato plants to give away to people. Then we've got some asparagus plants here. Fuchsias just sort of growing there. A lot of these plants are kind of a bit slow, and I think it's the sort of the cold evenings. It's kind of holding the plants back a bit. So it's nice and warm in the day, but it's still getting quite cool evenings, and I think these plants are getting quite affected by that. These 2 are coriander plants, so they're growing quite nicely. They'll stay in the pot in the greenhouse. And then those 4 at the back there, they're all basil plants. So they'll be used for pizzas and pasta and things like that. So, but they'll stay in the pot basically. They'll just grow in the pots away, and I'll just pick at those as and when we need them. On this side here, we've got some more asparagus plants, as you can see, growing quite nicely there. Some more spare tomato plants. And then here we've got all of the sort of gourds. So we've got pumpkins and butternut squashes there. So they're the butternut squashes at the end here, and then at that end there we've got pumpkins. And then here we've got the courgette plants, which are going to gourds. And then the rest of them are basically peppers and that, and red onions, which haven't really germinated very well, but I've left them in here just in case some of them do germinate, but it doesn't look favourite. And then here we've got sweet peas. I don't know if you can see, they're just starting to come through. So they've been in about a week now. So that's 1 lot of sweet peas. This is the second lot of sweet peas here, but none of these have seemingly come through yet. And then these are verbena, which are beautiful plants, particularly when you put it with lavender. I love the look of lavender and verbena together because they're both very complementary to each other. But that's the verbena. So that's the second greenhouse. So as you can see, things are moving on quite quickly, and I'll show you in the next tour what it looks like. But I just thought I'd give you a mid-month look at the greenhouses. So I hope this episode was some use to you. Please don't hesitate to put any comments or questions you got below, and I'll always get back to you. And I'll see you on the next episode of Jim's Not the Garden.